Alright, here's just a few observations about the death of Arthur, which has been portrayed many times in literature and many times in film. That's why one thing that's a little confusing when you talk about Arthurian legend is that it depends on the portrayal that you're looking at. So some of the information I'll give you here, it depends on the mythology, the Arthurian legend that you're looking at. There's so many in literature, but one thing I want to talk about is we've got definitely the presence of surrealism here as far as there's prophetic dreams. The first prophetic dream comes from Sir Bors, who's actually in service of Lancelot, and he is aware of Lancelot and Guinevere's tryst together. And Sir Bors pleads with Lancelot when Lancelot's going to go to Guinevere. Don't go, because I had a dream that Mordred and another have set a trap for you, and that's exactly what's happened. So here we have a prophetic dream that is not followed by Lancelot, because Lancelot is sure that Guinevere will wants him there, and he'll be safe. It's I guess to Lancelot the risk is worth it for his reward. It is interesting, though, that our author here, Thomas Malory, he actually wiggles out of the classic mythology that Lancelot and Guinevere had a physical relationship. He says that back then love was a different kind of love, maybe, but he basically implies maybe they didn't have a sexual relationship. It may have just been more of a romantic one. But there's another prophetic dream after Gawain's death, and we learn about, unfortunately here we learn about Gawain's death in a footnote, but basically what's happened is we know that Lancelot accidentally killed Gawain's, well, accidentally killed, he unknowingly killed Gawain's two brothers, and so Gawain pledges to kill Lancelot. There's pursuit to France, which is where Lancelot has gone to become a leader of France, and Arthur and his knights go to France to pursue Lancelot. And on the return, when they hear that Mordred has tried to usurp the throne of Arthur, they of course come back, and they find out that Gawain gets killed in the process shortly after his return. But anyway, we learn about all this in a footnote. I think it's important here that Gawain shows up as a ghost, and it's even in his death. Even in the afterlife, Gawain is still serving his lord, Arthur, trying to warn Arthur of, look, if you try to make this fight happen now, you're going to die and he's going to die. Basically, both sides are going to lose. There will not be a winner. And so Arthur tries to heed this prophecy. I think it's very interesting that the reason why this prophecy, the reason why the treaty between Arthur and Mordred and their sides is broken. They try to actually make a successful treaty, and it seems to be working. They're having like a little parlay together, but then there's a serpent that shows up, and really you don't have to try too hard to find what the biblical metaphor would be for that serpent. But the serpent's presence, of course, destroys the peace and harmony that could have been, and chaos ensues, destruction ensues. Now let's talk a little bit about Mordred, because Mordred's kind of a slippery character. It depends on what story you're looking at. But basically, Mordred is often seen to be the son of Arthur, the illegitimate son that he actually had with his sister, Morgana, which is, do with that whatever you want to, kind of interesting. But Mordred here is very treacherous, because not only does he provoke the confrontation with Lancelot that ultimately destroys the Round Table. I mean, Lancelot wipes out like 40 knights. But that's provoked, of course, by the jeerings and the pushings of Mordred. But also, there's that secrecy that when King Arthur goes to pursue Lancelot, he, as King Arthur's son, he takes the throne and takes a lot of men away from Arthur and divides the kingdom. And we know that that ultimately leads to the destruction of Camelot, pretty much. The age of chivalry dies with Arthur. We see kind of the chivalrous code and the chivalrous life is in a great state of decay by a lot of the actions of the knights, including the last real knight we have left is Bedivere. And notice that Bedivere lies to Arthur twice, and the third time does what he's told to do by returning Excalibur, throwing Excalibur into the lake. But twice he comes back and gives a false report of what he's done. This being the last real knight we have under Arthur's service that we see, that he would disobey his lord twice, really shows just kind of the decay of the chivalric code. And I think Mallory, who, if you read the biographical information, it's very interesting. Mallory was a knight, and he was also, recent documents suggest that he was also a prisoner for several different crimes, some of them small, some of them not small at all, some of them pretty terrible, but he was a prisoner and wrote a lot of this while he was imprisoned. Looking back at his life and looking at his current imprisonment, he would see the pledge that he made to follow this chivalric code is one that would be kind of empty and corrupt and no longer what it may have once symbolized, no longer be that powerful. The glory it had in the past is not what it has to him at the present. The last thing that I want to talk about is Arthur's departure into Avalon. We don't see him die, and Mallory is quite direct in that there's really no one who sees Arthur die, and this goes to interesting. A few of you picked up on the biblical presence in this story. It's pretty heavy. I want you to play around with the inscription on Arthur's tombstone as far as the implication biblically of what that could symbolize. Keep in mind that Arthur's death would of course be the end of an era, but there is a little bit of a promise of hope. There's a promise of a return that we get. So it's an end, but it's a temporary end, not necessarily a permanent one. And the greatness of Arthur's time in his kingdom will come again according to prophecy. So I hope you enjoyed the text, and I look forward to the other discussion board posts that you have about it.